Right, let's do it, Maui. What's your bad point?
Mine is the ranking that HLTV gave yesterday as of the time of recording this, that Frozen is the 12th best player of 2023,
Here's what
which
I love about this. I love the way that your reaction to that is like when I saw famously that Nico was 11th in 2016. It's like, it's not even that you just disagree. It like actually like almost morally outrages you, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
But
Like,
I know who they're gonna put for the 1 through 11, and I just so vehemently disagree with many of these people that are on it. So I'll just say,
did you ever do like a hypothetical list yourself? Like, did you try and figure out where you would have him roughly? I'm going to guess for you would be like, what, 7th or 8th or something, right?
7th. I would have had him.
I thought so. Okay.
Yeah. So I would have put him there because the people that they put above him are, they're going to put Stown today. I think as of the time of recording this, they haven't said who's number 11. I think it's going to be Stown.
It's got to be.
I think 10 will be Sun Pius, probably. I think maybe they'll... I don't know the order of these people, but it's going to be probably like Stown, Sun Pius, Simple, Brokey, Shiro. And all of those 5 people are probably people that I would put below him because Simple didn't even play CS2. So, like, I feel like putting him on this list is just ridiculous in terms of, like, this high up. Like, you can't... How could you be a top 10 player when the final quarter of the year you just skipped out on because you're like, I'm not really feeling the game right now? It's like dipping out on the meta. If the meta shifted so drastically from a MOBA and you're like, I don't want to play the last third of the year because of this meta, I would not consider them in my top 10 of a list, you know? So that's another... Stown... Okay, for one, Stown's not better than him. And I don't think at any point in the year Stown was a better player than him. There is some kind of methodology with HLTV where they say, you know, it's kind of about how their year was in terms of performance and achievement and everything like that. I don't think Stown out-achieved him. I don't think he outperformed him. I don't really, in this criteria that they've loosely defined, Stown is not above him in my eyes. Simple, like I just said, I don't think could be above him. And then you have like Shiro, Brokey, and Sun Pius. And I think there's arguments for some of those guys. Shiro, though, also only played a single CS2 event at Sydney, and he had beneath a 1.0 rating. So again, I probably wouldn't put him above him, even though Shiro's first 2/3 of the year was very impressive. But then Brokey, Sun Pius, I think there's like... Brokey to me, wow, like I just couldn't really, like, there were so many times this year where Brokey was so unreliable for FaZe. He had to me some higher peaks than Frozen in terms of just taking games over completely, but I think that's kind of, that goes hand in hand with using the op, and you're just going to have these weird pop-off games, but it's also why he dug FaZe into some really deep holes at points where FaZe was slumping throughout this year. So I felt like Brokey's variance is something where I probably just wouldn't have put him above him. And then Sun Pius, pretty stable force, arguable for me, whether you put him above Frozen, but I would not have, obviously. And yeah, so I just feel like this rating, in terms of where it's going to etch Frozen's name into the annals of CS history, is criminal, because so many people take the HLTV top 20 ratings and the placement as such gospel that when they look at Frozen and what he was able to do on a pretty underpowered MOUZ lineup until Shuhei got there, by the way, and Yimpak got there, he was still playing so well and above and beyond everybody else on that roster. And like, there's been some citations of the fact that he's saving a lot. It's like, bro, like, if your initial strategy with Dexter and Exertion goes badly and you're in a 3v5, what the hell else are you going to do? Are you going to like force the issue every single time? Probably not, because you're in so many two-man deficit situations so frequently that I don't really blame him for saving, because when he's playing with FaZe, I don't think he's going to be saving as much. I mean, roles change obviously too, but it's just like there's no hope in this round, and that's just kind of modern Counter-Strike. So either way, I was tasked with watching so many MOUZ games in the last 2 years. I don't know why that always happened, whether like I was working for any TO, for whatever reason. I feel like I worked every damn MOUZ game for the last year and a half, and I saw so many moments from Frozen which weren't baity. It's just that his pure entry stat isn't good because he's playing next to Exertion, who has like 30-something% entry attempts. Like, you can only get so many there, and also you have an aggressive opera like Torzy too sometimes. So it's like, yeah, his entry attempts aren't good, but in the middle of the round, he would still take the onus upon himself to try to go for some kinds of plays too. He would be the win condition. He would try to find openers onto bomb sites in situations that are pretty dire. So I don't really buy the whole thing about like, oh, well, the stats are inflated because he saves. Yeah, but he's also trying to win too. Like, I mean, I personally felt like Frozen was such a standout player this year. I had him as a top 3 rifler until CS2, and I feel like he kind of just slightly tapered off a little bit, and then a couple people passed him once again. So he could have been, for me, top 7, but top 12 is just criminal. Like, that's just not okay with me at all.
Where are you at on this, Staps?
I mean, I agree. I mean, he should definitely be above Stown. I mean, I don't think anyone would argue that in the whole scene. I don't know how Frozen would be underneath him, to be honest. I guess it's just based off like achievements, right?
Yeah,
I mean, as far as I know, one of the factors they do is what each event, as well as MVP, they do that EVP, which is like other players who did very well but aren't the MVP, basically. Like, it means you're sort of in that group. As far as I know, those do count quite a lot towards these sorts of things. So as far as I know, I think the problem he would have, if I had to guess, Maui, is if you look at Mouse and FaZe was just in more finals and, won more tournaments. So I think the problem he has is if he has like an awesome performance, but his team comes 8th, I don't think it counts as much to HLTV, if you know what I mean. That would be my guess. It's my assumption. Right,
so like
go on.
What riflers are above him then? Like Spinks, Robs?
Ninko, Spinks, Robs, and Stown.
Stown. Yeah, I mean, because like when you start comparing like a rifler to an opper, it's really hard in this ranking. Yeah. It's just a completely different role. And I mean, oppers generally always rank higher on this kind of thing. I mean, when you're comparing him to like Rops and Spinks, it's pretty close in my eyes. Like, it's so hard to say like one's significantly better than the other. Like, they're all very good players. And then Nico, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably put him like at least like 9th, 8th or 9th, I'd say. I think him not being in the top 10 is crazy.
I actually think that's quite a comfortable position I find myself as the third person answering, because obviously Maui has valued this player a bit higher. So something like 7th makes sense for him. I'm more in Daps. I'd have him more like 8th, 9th or 10th being that way. I haven't actually done an explicit list beyond the first 5, so I'm not quite sure what rank. I'll maybe do it as the thought exercise. Could be interesting. But I will say what you're finding now, Maui, is why I think I will always have like a fundamental philosophical problem with this list and how it is done. By the way, I have the same problem with the same list that I know as a basketball fan, that when they do that list of like the top 100 players in the NBA, mate, it's the same problem. If you're the third best player on the third best team in the NBA, you are going to make the list no matter what the fucking performance is like. Meanwhile, if you're the absolute best player on the 29th best team in the NBA, good luck making that list. Like, you might, but you might also be the guy they just pretend doesn't exist and forget about, because of the same scenario. They're just not seeing you in the playoffs, so they forget you exist and that you're good at the game. So my problem with you doing a list like this is we're judging these people even stat for stat like they were playing the same match in the same role. It's like upstairs about judging AWPers against fucking riflers. Like, how can I say Brokey, who the list itself is going to tell me isn't the best FaZe player, is better than fucking Frozen, who is the best player on Mouse, because FaZe is better than Mouse? Like, what is even that equation? Like, that's the opposite of an individual playlist. That's a team list. What you mean is the team FaZe is better than Mouse. Like, because here's the question. If I span it the other way, this doesn't always work because they play different roles. But if I take Frozen and I put him on FaZe and I take Brokey and put him on Mouse, is Brokey going to have... Would it even be possible for Brokey to place where Brokey places now? Probably not, right? So in that scenario, all I'd say for your HLTV is you haven't done an individual list. You've just done a list based on how good your team is. Because if we're going on players, like, I agree. I think actually in most regards, Frozen is a better player than Brokey. Stown had a very bad year. People forget this. He's one of the reasons Heroic didn't win that many tournaments. He kind of didn't live up to... This was the year where he was supposed to take the step up and be like the third best player in the world, and then they would have won a bunch of tournaments like the Major or something. He didn't do it. Like, the difference is in those teams, you've seen tons of games in Heroic where Stown didn't have to carry. You've seen tons of games in fucking FaZe where Brokey could play like shit. Like, mate, this year Brokey was actually pretty bad at like Cologne and fucking Katowice and part of the Major. Those are the 3 biggest tournaments of the year, boys. What are we talking about? Meanwhile, like, I've even seen Frozen, like, at some of these tournaments, sometimes his team looks like they're just falling apart. He still frags out. Like, look, he isn't like old school Nico on Mouse, but he's pretty fucking good. Like, I'm with you guys. I think he's actually closer. The real problem is this. I bet when you made that statement earlier, a fan will go, he's nowhere near Spinks. It's like, mate, can he play next to Zimu and be on Vitality? And then we'll actually see if he's at Spinks' level. Like, because again, same scenario. Like, Mate, Spinks on Ents. The Ents lineup was better than the Mouse one is now. Like, I actually think Frozen is underrated in that sense. Like, if we go too far the other way and you guys want to tell me he's better than fucking Robson, then yeah, I'll have an argument. But I actually agree. I think on this one, he has been hard done by. And unfortunately, I don't think it's anything to do with him. I think it's just the flaw of how they judge the system. Whatever criteria they're using. Like I say, I would essentially just spin it this way to HLTV. What more is he meant to do, mate? What more is he meant to do with his team in the tournaments he's in to ever get placed higher? Like, as far as I can tell, he did a lot. Like, he actually was, if people don't know, he was clearly the best player for that team. He fragged out all the time. He used to even play well, like I say, in the losses against the big teams. And people can say, oh, he's baiting, he's a bit selfish. I'll just say the same things when Robson on the team. What else are you going to do? That's like when they tell about a player who's a star in the NBA, like, pass smart. It's like, if these bad players just misses the shot, you idiot, Hammers will take it. Like, if you're a player like he is on a team like that, you just get you take care of yours and you let the fucking coach and the in-game leaders worry about the rest of the team. It's not Frozen's job to make the rest of Mouse better. His job is just be a star rifler and be the best he can be. And as I'll say again, didn't he do that? I think he did an awesome job this 2023. He did about everything I could ask from him. In fact, he probably actually performed 10% better than I would expect. Like, I thought he was a stud. Yeah, fair play. By the way, cool news is, though, here's the good news, Maui. At least now he's in phase. The joke is he could play identically this year, 2024, and he will get the fucking top 10 spot, won't he? So if anything, hopefully it'll fix itself on this one, right?
Yeah, glad to see that he's on the roster that he deserves to be on for sure. But, like, I mean, the thing is, I feel like that little snub that I thought for ESL Pro League where Torzy won MVP over Frozen too, probably likely.
Which, let's be real, that was like a 1A, 1B choice on that one. Like, people acted like, that's the problem with those MVPs as well. When you see the MVP in history, like, this guy won it, you think that, like, he was far and away the best. Like, in that one, like, you could have given either of them at that one, man. They were both awesome. Even the Yimfat guy was pretty good.
Yeah. I think to me, Yimfat was definitely like 2, but I would have had Frozen and Torzy were so close in that. And if that were the determining factor between Stown and Frozen, or maybe it'll actually be Brokey at number 11. I don't know. But, like, if that's the determining factor, it's just going to be like, oh, we're splitting hairs there. And then we're ranking someone like for the whole year based off of one thing where it was just kind of like an arbitrary decision.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.